Hi guys, welcome back. This is FSX 404 and today I'm going to go over ILS approach a little bit. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few tips on how to fly an ILS properly. Now let me talk about the ILS approach itself. There are two ways to do an ILS approach. The first way is to do a full approach using an approach plate. And to do a full approach on your own, you kind of have to know how to read approach plates, and that's not what I'm going to do today. The second way to do the approach is a little easier and is a little more Microsoft Flight Simulator friendly. The way we're going to do an ILS approach in a Microsoft Flight Simulator is that we're going to create an IFR flight plan and let the ATC vector us until we are in a position to intercept the localizer and then the glide slope. There are four very important things that we need to know when flying an ILS approach, even in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The first very important thing we need to know about our approach is our glide slope angle of descent for the approach that we're doing. In today's case, I'm going to use Santa Barbara ILS runway 7 approach. Unfortunately, I did not see the glide slope in a Microsoft Flight Simulator, so the only way to get a glide slope angle of descent is to actually go to the real approach plate for that airport, in this case Santa Barbara, and take a look at it. As you can see, the Santa Barbara ILS runway 7 approach has a standard 3-degree glide slope rate of descent. Why is this important? This is important because knowing the angle of descent for our glide slope and knowing our ground speed, we can then figure out what our rate of descent needs to be to keep that glide slope needle centered. Now, to find out what our rate of descent needs to be, there's two ways to do this. For a standard 3-degree glide slope, the easy way to do this is take your ground speed, which in the Cessna 182, the airplane I'm going to use today, our ground approach speed will be approximately 100 knots. So we're going to take that ground approach speed of 100 knots and we're going to multiply it by 5. And we're going to get 500 feet per minute rate of descent. So when we are on a 3-degree glide slope at 100 knots ground speed, we need to descend at 500 feet per minute to maintain that glide slope. If your airplane approach speed is 150 knots, you multiply that by 5, you get a 750 feet per minute rate of descent. So for something like a 737 or a 767, when your approach ground speed is 150 knots, you will multiply that by 5, you get about 750 feet per minute rate of descent. But this is only true for a 3-degree glide slope. Now, how do you find out what your rate of descent is if your glide slope is 4 degrees? Well, you can either do what they do in the rest of the world, besides the United States, where they actually learn math, algebra, and they figure it out. Or if you're in the United States, you can just use this cheat sheet called the rate of descent table. So if we go to our rate of descent table, we look at 4 degrees glide slope at 105 knots. Our rate of descent will have to be 740 feet per minute. Where do you get this cheat sheet, rate of descent table? Go to more information below here, and I've posted a link to one of these. The second important thing to know for any approach is your minimums. For the Santa Barbara approach, our minimums will be 213 feet MSL and half a mile visibility. The third thing we need to remember about ILS and localizer approaches is that we never want to chase that needle. We want to fly our heading. If we have to make an adjustment to the left or to the right, we usually want to do it by 5 degrees, get the needle centered, and get back on course that will maintain that needle centered. There may be cases when we need to do more, especially for crazy crosswinds, crazy gusts, and that kind of stuff. But for most cases, we won't need to do more than 5 degrees adjustment to either side. The fourth and last thing we need to know about ILS approaches is that we will intercept the glide slope from below every time, meaning the needle will come from above, we'll intercept it, and then we'll begin our final descent. Now, this is what's going to happen with the ATC. The ATC will say something like Cessna so-and-so, turn right heading 045, descend to 1900. Maintain 1900 until established on the localizer. Contact tower, and on and on and on. So what the ATC just did is they gave us the altitude we need to descend to. We need to intercept the glide slope at that altitude. So we'll descend down to 1900. We'll maintain 1900 until we intercept the glide slope. Now this is very important because that altitude that the ATC just gave us, at the point we intercept the glide slope at that altitude, that is going to be our final approach fix. Meaning at that point, that's when the landing gear comes down, and that's when we do our first pre-landing checklist. At the final approach fix, we'll also begin our descent, and in this case I'm going to maintain a descent rate of 500 feet per minute. I'm I'm gonna follow the glide slope in. I'm gonna keep my headings. You guys enjoy the rest of the approach. I'm gonna maintain a sterile cockpit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.
Cessna 05 Charlie, cleared to land, runway 7.